Doesn't matter if he has to play a little bit slower. He knows that it can spell the end if he gets caught by any of it.
Right. Gets the back air, and Keikaso secures the 3-peat, taking Genesis 9, triumphing over Sego in a long grand final. Well, actually for him, quite quick.
Keikaso, Fullstream, Penguin, Sego, ZB, SBS, Thronorg. These players all share one important distinction. They're all from the good old US of A. That fact shouldn't be a surprise to anyone following competitive rivals of Aether. After all, this country is the birthplace of the game. It's the home of our developers, it's where all the game's biggest events occur, and it's been the primary focus of all the videos on this channel. We here at Stats of Aether want to take you on a journey outside the borders of just one continent by spotlighting strong players who lurk on every corner of the globe, waiting for the chance to prove their worth. Today, we want to give you that opportunity as we take you on the tour of international scenes to tell the story of each scene and discover the hidden bosses that dominate their regions. My name is Chernan from Stats of Aether, and we present Rivals Out of Region, Latin America. Recently, the Latin American scene has become less of an anomaly thanks to the surge of popularity last year. But what about its past? What about its development to get where they are right now? To start, let's divide the sheer size of Latin America into its three main regions: Mexico, Central America, and South America. All three regions shared a similar start, a small group of individuals who started playing and competing during the game's time in early access. These groups eventually gained enough traction to begin their own stories. By 2017, there was already some activity in some scenes. Mexico, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Chile, and Argentina had the largest scenes, while smaller scenes only had about a handful of players. Notably, this is the year the ROA SA server was created. This serves as the main server for the entire South American region, even though most of its players are in Argentina and Chile. The only country that doesn't use this server as its primary one is Brazil. They have their own server mainly due to the language barrier between them and the rest of South America. The Roa Brazil server originally started out as a schoolgirl/FGC server, but pivoted into a purely rival server at about the same time Roa South America showed up. This allowed both servers to grow alongside each other. Competitively, there was not a lot going on due to how new the scene was, but plenty of players were already showing talent, including Black Ace and Deneve in Mexico, Jose Rose in Puerto Rico, Teka Teka Rumba, Lycanfloof, and Ari in Colombia, Leart and Halo in Brazil, and several other players popping up in other areas. Moving into 2018, things remained very humble for the Latin American scenes, with a few exceptions, like the newly formed Puerto Rico scene that throughout the year managed to host some local tournaments as side events in bigger Super Smash Bros. Tournaments. This opportunity allowed them to create a power ranking for the most prevalent players of that year, some of those players still being active to this day, like the aforementioned Jose Rose, Hypernation, and Chopper. Further down south, new arrivals in the South American region were showing plenty of promise. Players like Vipájaro, Thunderbolt, Filostrivico, Fesho, Nako, and Guille were the new blood the scene needed to kick off the Rivals Online South American series, better known as Rosas. While it wasn't the first online bracket in South America, it has now become its most popular, still holding bi-weekly tournaments to this day. This new bracket series brought a new spark to South America. We can see this motivation as in late 2018, the player and TO, Aether, held various locals in Chile where even a few Argentinian players showed up to play. That same year, a major project was in the works. Aether and Lafu began the initiative to create a Discord server that would function as a library. The name of the server? Roa Academy SA. The goal? To translate every single guide and resource from the original academy to the Spanish language so that they could broaden the learning possibilities and opportunities of new and regular players. They even had designated players that would function as mentors in the Roa SA server. The server would start out as read-only so as to not clog the main server channels. Aether and Lafu, alongside a small group of translators, began working on the project, but at some point the project stagnated and was left unfinished for the time being. Jumping into 2019, a few things were changing in rural Brazil, most notably the server now being handled by Mirtos, with the help of Petero and Zakos. These three began working on creating their own competitive circuit within the Brazilian scene, finally creating their own league called Liga do Aether. Apart from those, Mirtos managed to host a few locals. On the Roa South America side, Season 1 of Roses was running smoothly, running all the way from early 2018 to late 2019. Server activity began rising due to an influx of new players, including the TKM crew. Aside from what we mentioned so far, a lot of scenes were almost radio silent during this time. So let's move ahead a bit to 2020 and 2021, the 2 years where everyone was told to stay at home. What did the community do during this time? Mexico, Colombia, and Venezuela started seeing more activity, with both old players coming back to the game and new players experiencing it for the first time. Jose Rose came back in full force and started hosting and streaming tournaments without region lock, meaning players that frequented the South American scene were showing up in his tournaments, mainly Colombian and Chilean players. Speaking of Colombia, they also made a Discord server to facilitate matchmaking, however this community was more active on other social medias such as WhatsApp. Brazil developed a brand new competitive circuit called Cabra, short for Campeonato Brasileiro de Rivals of Aether. This monthly bracket had several new rising stars, including Lua, Vinum, Nubuntu, Atraxia, and Parava, finally giving Petru some well-needed competition, as he had dominated the scene for some time now. Roa South America started Season 2 and continued on into Season 3. The meta for the long-running Roses was reaching a new skill ceiling, with plenty of players fighting for the top spots, including older players like Vipajaro, Lafu, and Aether, and some new players like Kroba and Samo. In 2021, a member of the Brazil scene, Chiro, started organizing tournaments for the workshop community. This tournament was named Torneo de Pura Purada, or TPP for short. The popularity and workshop roster of this tournament series steadily grew during this year. Later the same year, the Colombian scene started hosting its own online monthly round robins to improve their skill. Unfortunately, this initiative lost steam and eventually stopped after some time. At around the same time, Mexico began working on its revival thanks to two key players, Viper and Toon. In an effort to attract players, they started working on their new monthly series, the Rivals Mexican Series, or RMS, which to date is their main competitive circuit. At the very end of the year, Roa South America held its own community awards, similar to the one the main rival scene had earlier. For some folks, 2022 became known as the renaissance of the Latin American rival scene, kicking off the year by finishing all of the remaining guys that were pending from the Academy server. The task was done by a player who was still young in the community, Doka. By February, the library was completed, and with the server revitalized and ready to run. But before it was time to start spreading the word, there were a few changes. The first important change was in the name of the server, now becoming Roa Academy Hispano. This was made to incorporate the rest of the Latin American communities and the Spanish community from Europe, since they all shared a common language. Another big event occurred this year, and that was the creation of Rival Central America for all the countries between Mexico and Colombia. This was done by the Costa Rican player Doka. Headed off with the help of a Smash org from the same country, they started off their first competitive season that ran until May of that year. Early 2022 was also the time the very popular Twitter account known as Rivals LatAm was created and started posting, with the intention of getting the attention of the public in order to show off the active presence the Latin community has always had to the rest of the world. This is probably the most direct exposure you've had to the Latin American community if you aren't already part of it. It's also important to note the other rising figureheads of this community. In Mexico, Pool has now taken over as the main TO for RMS. Captain Pressure created his own tournament series, the Pressure Quests, and some smaller round-robin events are hosted by Toon and newcomer Quark. Over in Central America, Doka was in charge of their circuit. In Venezuela, Hyper started setting up more local and online brackets for the scene. For Brazil, Atraxia and Lua handled the TOing, and finally in South America, Vipajaro remained as the main TO. It's worth noting that the jump from 2021 to 2022 in the southern part of South America was a bit rocky, as they were still active during this but saw a noticeable decrease in players and tournament attendance. At this point in time, we have several notable names from different regions of the Latin American scene. In Mexico, we have Black Ace, Red Tilt, and Lucio. In the newly formed Central American scene, we have Dokayo, Donkey, and Klein. Down in Colombia and Venezuela, we have Arturo, Teca Teca Rumba, Ochoa, Marciano, and Ultimate Bait. Brazil kept its strong players in Mirtos, Petru, and Lua. Finally, Chile has Vipajaro, Samo, and Camilo XD. In late July, Mexico had the honor of not only having its very first offline tournament, but also holding arguably the largest local tournament in Latin American history. Smash Factor 9 became the home of Mexico's premier offline Rivals event, with not only many notable Mexican players showing up, but also several Smash players. Sky J, Big Boss, and even MK Leo showed up. In the end, the region's greatest player, Black Ace, pulled out a win. Fun fact, this is also the only time a non-Mexican player was part of an RMS PR eligible bracket, that player being Doka. In August, we would see the return of Hyper Nation, a longtime Smash TO in Puerto Rico. he would almost single-handedly rebuild the Puerto Rican Rivals community from scratch, pulling strings with other TOs in the area so that he could host rival side events and tournaments. He made a Puerto Rico Discord server and a Facebook group, and would eventually host Puerto Rico's largest Rivals-only local, Rivals Revival, where we witnessed the rise of a new top player in the region, Gab PR, being a major upset to the older Puerto Rican players. Puerto Rico started a fire that led to one of the fastest growing scenes ever, with the help of inexperienced TOs like Blender, Alex Alchemy, and Black Corona, alongside the help of Chrono Break Gaming. With the Latin American community more united than ever thanks to Doka, there is now a sense of brotherhood between all the regions. Let's take a look at some of the events that happened in the community. The Ro Academy Hispano now has mentors from every region and was able to create their own amateur brackets for new players coming into the scene, the first one in May and the second one in September. Rivals LatAm held a Twitter bracket of all the local scenes Rivals had across the world, culminating in a crew battle between the two finalists, Asia and Mexico, with Mexico taking the unofficial title of the best local scene in Rivals. Doka also organized a crew battle between his own region of Central America and France, with a special rule set he created to account for the lag that comes when playing against a country on the other side of the world. France claimed victory in this crew battle. Around the end of the Central American France crew battle, Vipajaro was invited to compete in Heatwave 5, one of the largest local events Rivals has had. With a crowdfunding goal of $1,200, Doka organized yet another crew battle and stream to help raise the funds, but with a twist. Instead of a typical crew battle, Latin America would select 10 different players from across its whole region to compete against one man, SoCal's very own Durai. To the surprise and delight of the viewers, Latin America managed to squeeze out the victory by the skin of their teeth. To finish off the year, there were 3 other major online tournaments that were region locked to Latin America, not for any power ranking but to celebrate the community. The first of these tournaments was #Jueguen Rivals, which translates to #PlayRivals, taking place in late November. Vipajaro dominated the tournament and took first place over several other strong players, including Black Ace, Camilo XD, Arturo, and Klein. He also scored first place in doubles with Lafu as his partner. Finally, Black Ace took home the workshop bracket. In December, the second tournament came to fruition. Chernan's big Christmas tournament for Latin America was held, containing the second largest prize pool in Latin America to date, while also giving out prizes during the top 8 stream, including skins, Steam gift cards, and straight up the cash value of the game. Lucio ended his small hiatus to take home first place in this tournament, with wins over Arturo, Vipajaro, Croba, and Campbell. The last tournament was held in Brazil, with their end-of-the-year event Solsticio 3, where Sir XF came out on top. 2022 was one of the best years for the Latin American community in a lot of senses. They established a strong network for the community where TOs can organize and coordinate events no matter the region, and players can access information and resources easier than ever. Nevertheless, they aren't planning on stopping there. Let's have a look at what 2023 looks like. January started with RMS 10, kicking off Season 2, having another substantial prize pool and plenty of old and new players coming in to show what they got, and announcing their PR for Season 2, where Lucio would rise to the top of the Mexican power rankings, dethroning the longtime champion Black Ace, who still reached second place. Doka and HyperNation organized a crew battle between Puerto Rico and Costa Rica, which culminated in the announcement of a brand new competitive circuit for Central America. In the northern area of South America, there are plans for a new joint circuit for Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, while the southern area will end its 4th season of Rosas after the release of their power ranking. Brazil has already started the year with Gabra 17, scheduled for late February. Lastly, Doka organized a community-wide project to put together a map showing off all current players in Latin America, going all the way from Mexico to Chile, proving that not only is this community alive and well, but we will only get bigger and better. To close out this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about myself, Chernan. I provided the voiceover for this video and also edited it. I've been playing Rivals since early 2017, right about when it officially released on Steam. I wasn't very active in any scene since I didn't feel like I really belonged. That began to change in 2022 when I found out about Rivals LatAm, my own local scene in Mexico, and of course, all the amazing people who play, TO, organize, stream, and compete in Latin America. While I'm no longer an active competitor, I am still very active in the scene, holding my own tournaments, TOing when I can, casting local streams, sponsoring local and major tournaments, and doing anything I can really. I can say with full confidence that Latin America has so much to offer, and we're only really getting started. It took us a while to get to this point, but we're here now and we're ready to prove ourselves, not just competitively, but in every aspect of this community. Once again, my name is Chernan with Stats of Aether, and I'd like to remind you all, #PlayRivals. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that little bell icon so you can be notified when the next video is out. Check out one of our other videos while you're at it too. It really helps the channel and everyone who works on it.